A quiet afternoon in a high-accent Atlanta boutique. An elderly black woman browsing for a dress gets blindsided by a snobby regular. Pearls tight, prejudice tighter. She doesn't belong here, the woman sneers, stopping the store dead. But here's the twist. She just messed with the wrong family. When her son walks in, suit razor sharp and presence sharper, jaws drop. The truth slams down like a freight train. Stick around, this one's got a knockout ending. Before we dive in, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. I'm curious to see how far this story has traveled. And don't forget, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another jaw-dropping story like this. All right, let's get into it. Atlanta, Georgia, March 12, 2025. Jackson's Elegance. A high-end boutique bathed in warm afternoon light. Sunlight spills through grand glass windows, casting a golden glow on shimmering silks and flowing satins. A soft trace of jasmine lingers, perhaps from a hidden diffuser, while the low hum of jazz drapes the air in quiet sophistication. Footsteps glide across creamy marble floors. Some customers browse at a leisurely pace, fingers brushing against luxurious fabrics. Others linger, shopping bags resting on their wrists. It's a place of indulgence, a quiet retreat from the rush of the world. Drama has no place here. Then, sharp cutting, the piece shatters. "She doesn't belong here!" The words slice through the boutique like broken glass. Loud, crisp, poisoned with contempt. Patricia Hargrove, Pat, to anyone still willing to tolerate her, stands rigid, a manicured finger pointed straight at Margaret Jackson. Maggie. 78 years old, graceful, unshaken. The store holds its breath, bags crinkle, heads snap around. The air tightens. Her eyes meet Pat's, steady, unyielding. Pat doesn't realize she just lit a fuse. And it's about to explode. Let me tell you about Maggie. She's not just some random shopper caught in the crossfire. She's 78, her silver hair neatly pinned in a bun, the same way she used to braid Danny's hair before school. She wears a navy cardigan soft from years of wear over a long skirt that sways gently as she moves. Not flashy, but full of quiet dignity. Every line on her face tells a story of hard work, of sacrifice, of love. Today, she's here for something special. Danny, her only son, is celebrating 20 years of Jackson's Elegance, the boutique empire he built from the ground up. The name Jackson now means something in this city, and tonight she'll stand beside him, her heart swelling with pride. This place isn't just a store. It's part of her story. She remembers the nights in their tiny apartment, spinning bedtime tales of dreams and perseverance. Now, Danny's that dream come true. Sharp, successful, but with a heart as big as his ambitions. Atlanta knows him as the man who gives back, who never forgets where he came from. Today he's in Charlotte, handling business. So Maggie's here alone, stepping into the flagship store, taking in every detail. For the first time, she's choosing a dress without him hovering, without him insisting on paying, and it feels like a gift. A moment just for herself, after a lifetime of putting him first. Maggie's in her element now, her fingers gliding over a deep blue gown, beads stitched in like tiny constellations. She lifts it, watching how the light catches the shimmer, picturing the party. Danny at the center, grinning. Motown tunes filling the air, friends raising their glasses in celebration. "This could be it," she whispers, the warmth in her voice unmistakable. She steps into the fitting room, her heart light, almost giddy, like a child sneaking a peek at a birthday gift. And when she steps out, the dress is perfect. Not too tight, not too loose. The beads gleam as she twirls gently, her reflection smiling back at her. "Well, look at that," she murmurs, her grin stretching wide, lighting up her whole face. It's more than just a dress, it's a piece of the world Danny built. A world she helped him dream into existence. She's never shopped here alone before. Danny was always by her side, pointing out colors, insisting on paying. But today, it's just her, the soft hum of jazz and the quiet joy bubbling inside. She pictures the party, maybe some Aretha Franklin playing, maybe Danny pulling her into a dance. and for a moment, the rest of the world melts away. This is hers, small but perfect, a happiness she's finally claiming for herself. But while Maggie's lost in her bubble, someone else is brewing trouble. Patricia Hargrove. Pat stands across the store, watching her like a puzzle that doesn't fit. Pat's been coming here for years. She knows the type. Ladies who lunch, women who belong. Maggie? She doesn't fit. She looks out of place, like she's wandered in from another world. Pat's in her 50s, decked out in a white blazer that screams money, pearls hanging heavy around her neck, her hair's pulled back so tight it looks like it hurts. She's got that air about her, like she owns whatever space she steps into. She's a regular, drops cash like it's nothing, and in her mind that makes her the boss. She's mid-chat with a cashier when she spots Maggie. Simple cardigan, sensible shoes, an older black woman who doesn't match her mental checklist for high-end. Pat's eyes narrow, and you can almost hear her thoughts grinding. What's she doing here? She mutters it under her breath, just loud enough for a lady in a sundress nearby to hear. The woman shifts her bag, pretends not to notice, but Pat, she doesn't mind an audience. "This isn't some discount rack," she says, voice clipped, folding her arms as Maggie steps out in that blue dress. Pat doesn't see the pride in Maggie's smile or the history in her hands. She doesn't see the mother who raised a man who built this very boutique. She just sees someone who doesn't belong. Her lips tighten, her nails drum against her sleeve. It's coming. The shift in the air, the moment before a storm rolls in. And Maggie? She has no idea she's about to be caught right in the eye of it. So? There's Maggie, still glowing from her moment in that blue dress, smoothing it down in front of the mirror like she's already at Danny's big party. The jazz hums along, the store warm and quiet, and then click, click, click. Patricia Hargrove's heels slice through the calm like little warning shots. She strides over, slow and deliberate, the scent of her expensive perfume trailing behind her. "That's a beautiful dress, isn't it?" she says, syrupy sweet but with a bite underneath that's impossible to miss. Maggie turns, caught off guard but as polite as ever. She's got that old-school grace, the kind that doesn't crack easy. "Thank you," she says, warm but steady. "I think it's just right for my son's event." Pat's smile tightens. Her pearls catch the light as she tilts her head, studying Maggie like a misplaced object. "Oh, honey," she coos, voice thick with something that isn't kindness. "Are you sure you're in the right store?" A pause, just long enough for the words to sink in. "This isn't exactly budget-friendly, if you catch my drift." A sharp little jab. Not the first Maggie's ever felt, not the worst, but that doesn't make it sting any less. For a second, just a second, her fingers tighten on the dress hanger. The old Maggie, the one from years ago, might have faltered, might have let the doubt creep in, but not this Maggie. She lifts her chin, meeting Pat's gaze without a flicker. "I'm exactly where I need to be," she says, her voice firm, steady as stone. "My shopping'll do the talking for me." Pat lets out a little scoff, loud enough to turn a few heads nearby. "Oh, I'm sure it will," she says, voice dripping sarcasm. She folds her arms, smirking like she's just one round one. Maggie exhales slowly, turns back to the mirror, brushing it off. But the air's shifted now. The weight of the moment lingers, and somewhere deep inside, something begins to simmer. The moment hangs heavy. Maggie's just setting the blue dress back when, "Excuse me, manager!" Pat's voice slices through the store like a whip crack. A woman by the scarves jumps, dropping her bag with a thud. A cashier freezes mid-scan. The jazz overhead stumbles into silence, swallowed by the weight of the accusation about to come. Lisa Carter rushes forward, clipboard clutched tight. She's young, maybe 3 months into the job, and looks like she'd rather be anywhere else. "Yes, Mrs. Hargrove." Her voice is small, unsure. Pat doesn't even look at her. She points sharp accusatory at Maggie. "I've been watching this woman," she announces, her voice carrying through the store. She pauses just long enough for every head to turn, for the tension to coil tight. Then, with the confidence of a jury delivering a verdict, "And I'm pretty sure she slipped something into her purse." The floor drops out beneath Maggie's feet. Silence. A thick, suffocating kind. The kind that pins a person in place, makes every stare feel like a weight pressing down. Maggie stands there, the green dress still in her hands, her heart sinking fast and heavy. Not again. "I haven't done a thing wrong," she says, steady, but there's something raw beneath it, something tired. She doesn't argue, doesn't defend, just unhooks her purse, old, leather, worn soft at the edges, and hands it over. "Go ahead," she says, eyes locked on Lisa's. "Check it if it'll stop this nonsense." Lisa hesitates, cheeks flushing, but does as she's told. The purse yields nothing but a wallet, keys, a pack of peppermint gum, the ordinary contents of an ordinary life. "There's nothing here," Lisa mumbles, barely audible, her eyes flicking nervously toward Pat. But Pat's already shaking her head, arms crossed tight. "Check again." Lisa swallows. Check again." Pat leans in, her pearls clinking together as she lowers her voice. "I know her type." A murmur ripples through the store. Someone by the handbags shifts uncomfortably. A man in a polo crosses his arms, watching. The air thickens, expectant, and Maggie feels every second of it. The weight, the shame, the familiarity, the humiliation of being seen but never known. Not this time. Maggie takes back her purse, slow and deliberate, her fingers steady even as something burns in her chest. "I think we're done here," she says, voice calm, precise. "A blade, not a bludgeon. Unless you've got proof, you need to leave me alone." Pat smirks, her arms folding tighter. "If you've got nothing to hide, why so defensive?" She tilts her chin, all mock innocence. Maggie doesn't blink. "You accuse me with no evidence," she says, stepping forward. "Not much, just enough to make Pat take notice." "That's not defensiveness. That's self-respect." A hush spreads through the store. Near the shoe rack, someone mutters, "She's got a point." A woman in sunglasses exhales sharply, shaking her head. The tide shifts, subtle but sure. Pat sees it, feels it. But she doesn't back down. Her voice sharpens. "People like her don't belong in places like this." A beat of silence, then, soft but unshaken, "You don't know a thing about me." Pat scoffs. But Maggie isn't done. "And you're showing everyone here exactly who you are." It lands. You can see it in the flicker behind Pat's eyes, the way her nails dig into her arms. The whispers grow. A couple by the registers exchanges glances. A sales associate hovers near the counter, unsure if she should step in. Pat straightens her blazer, her smirk faltering for just a breath. But Maggie stands tall, unmoved, unshaken. And you just know this isn't over yet. Pat's not letting go. She turns to Lisa, voice sharp as a blade. "Tell her to leave right now." The words crack through the store, loud and absolute, like a judge slamming a gavel. Like she's already won. Lisa flinches, clipboard trembling in her hands. Her gaze darts between them, caught between power and conscience. She's new, she's unsure, and Pat's eyes are burning into her, demanding obedience. Lisa's throat bobs. She hesitates just for a second, but then, too soft, almost apologetic, "Maybe it's best if you go, ma'am." A hush falls. The words linger, unnatural and wrong. Maggie blinks. Her jaw tightens, then unclenches, like she's swallowing something bitter. "You're asking me to leave?" she says, slow and deliberate, each syllable heavy as stone. "I've done nothing wrong." Pat folds her arms, watching smugly, as if she's just taken a queen off the chessboard. But she hasn't won yet. Maggie exhales, steadying herself. Then turning to Pat. Her voice doesn't rise, doesn't shake, but lands sharp and unyielding. "You're doing this because of how I look." Pat stiffens. "You ought to be ashamed of yourself." A ripple moves through the crowd. Someone exhales sharply. A lady near the coats nods, just barely, but enough. Pat falters just for a breath. It's quick, so quick you'd miss it if you weren't watching closely. But Maggie sees it. "I'm just protecting the store's reputation," Pat snaps, voice a notch higher, too defensive, a desperate attempt to hold on. But the crowd isn't buying it anymore. "That's not what this is." Maggie's voice is firm, unwavering, and you know it. The murmur builds, low, buzzing, a shifting tide. A woman by the jewelry section whispers something to her friend. A man near the shoes mutters, "This is messed up." A younger employee glances toward the back like she's waiting for a real manager to step in. Pat's fingers dig into her arms, her pearls clinking together as she scoffs. "Oh, please." But her confidence? It's cracking, and she has no idea. She's about to lose everything then, just when the air's about to snap, a low, rumbling growl. It cuts through the tension like a knife, the deep hum of an engine, smooth, controlled, powerful. Heads turn as a sleek black SUV pulls up to the curb, polished chrome glinting under the store's lights. The jazz fades, swallowed by a silence thick with curiosity. The driver's door swings open. A man steps out first, broad shoulders, sharp black suit, earpiece snug against his ear. He doesn't just walk, he assesses, eyes sweeping the store like a predator scanning for threats. The shift in energy is instant. People straighten. Whispers hush. Then, Daniel Jackson steps out, tall, 6'2", charcoal gray suit, crisp white shirt, every detail immaculate, every movement deliberate. His polished shoes hit the marble with a measured click, click, click. He doesn't rush. He doesn't have to. Power rolls off him in waves, the kind that doesn't need to shout to command attention. The glass doors chime as he strides in. The air shifts. "Mr. Jackson!" a cashier gasps, hands freezing mid-transaction. Lisa nearly drops her clipboard. We weren't expecting you today, sir." Her voice wobbles, a mix of awe and panic. Customers murmur, "That's Danny Jackson? The owner?" And just like that, the energy flips. Pat scoffs, arms crossing tighter. Oh, great. Another big shot to sort this mess out. She has no idea. Danny's gaze sweeps the room, cool and unreadable. He takes it all in, the hush, the tension, Maggie standing steady in the storm. His silence is heavy, calculated. Then finally he moves, cutting through the crowd like a blade, straight to her. "What's going on, Mama?" His voice is deep, steady. A warmth that's all for her, but a steel edge, ready for whatever comes next. Pat jumps in before Maggie can answer, seizing the moment. "Good, you're here." She strides forward, her smugness at full volume. "This woman's been causing trouble. I caught her acting sneaky, probably tried to steal something." She jabs a finger at Maggie, her voice sharp, playing to the crowd like she's the hero of this story. Lisa stammers. "We checked her purse, Mr. Jackson. There's nothing in it." Pat waves her off. "Doesn't mean she wasn't planning to. People like her are good at hiding things. Trust me, I've seen it before." Silence. The air solidifies like the whole store is holding its breath. Danny turns, slowly, fixes Pat with a stare so cold, so measured, it could freeze fire. People like her? Each syllable lands soft, precise. But it's a knife, slipping between the cracks of her confidence. Pat hesitates, just for a flicker of a second, then, "Too deep to back out now." She squares her shoulders. "You know what I mean, not respectable clients. She doesn't fit here, and I'm just trying to keep this place classy." The words hang. Danny lets them rot in the air, lets everyone feel the weight of what she just said. Then he steps forward. One step, two. His shadow falls over her, stretching long and dark. He holds the pause, just long enough for the whole store to lean in. Then, quiet, controlled. "This woman you're accusing," a heartbeat, "is my mother." Boom. Gasps detonate across the room. A purse thuds to the floor. Someone whispers, "Oh, Lord." Pat goes white. Her mouth opens, closes like a fish yanked from water. Her pearls tremble against her blazer. She's speechless. And Danny? He's just getting started. Danny doesn't let up. He takes another step forward, slow, deliberate. Pat's back stiffens, her pearls trembling at her throat. Danny's voice drops lower, each word slicing through the air like a knife. You judged my mother without a shred of cause. A beat. The words hang heavy, like a hammer about to fall. You harassed her. A pause. Made up lies. Another step. Humiliated her in front of all these people. Pat blinks rapidly, hands twitching at her sides. The pearls clack against each other as she stammers, I didn't. Danny cuts her off, sharp as steel. This isn't just my mother. His voice is ice now. He gestures to Maggie, who stands steady, her chin lifted high. This store? It's hers as much as it's mine. She's got more right to be here than you ever will. A murmur ripples through the crowd. Someone claps. Soft at first, then another joins in. A lady by the coats nods fiercely, her lips pressed into a thin, knowing line. The air tilts, the weight of the room shifting. Pat feels it, her face flushes red, then drains pale. Her blazer suddenly feels too tight, her breath coming shallow. I didn't know she was your... She didn't say... Pat grasps at straws, her voice turning shrill with panic. Danny's eyes flicker, cold, calculating. She shouldn't have to. Boom. It's a gut punch. Pat stumbles back, her heels scraping against the marble. The crowd reacts visibly now. Heads shake, whispers turn to open conversations. A man near the register mutters, "Damn shame." Another woman whispers, "About time someone put her in her place." Pat's standing there, exposed, stripped of her usual swag. Maggie doesn't say a word. She doesn't need to. The truth is out, ringing louder than any defense Pat could ever muster. Danny's not done yet. His gaze shifts to Lisa. She's been shrinking behind her clipboard, gripping the edges like it's the only thing keeping her upright. Her knuckles are white, her eyes darting between Danny and the crowd, searching for an escape that doesn't exist. And you? Lisa flinches. Danny's voice isn't loud, but it cuts through the silence like a blade. Why didn't you stop this? A heartbeat. Why'd you let her throw accusations around with no proof, then tell my mama to leave? Lisa's head drops, her cheeks blazing red. I didn't know she was your mom, Mr. Jackson. She mumbles, voice small, shaky, barely audible over the hum of the crowd. Danny steps closer, his shadow falling over her too. That's no excuse. His tone is firm, final. You don't need to know who she is to do your job right. Every soul who walks in here deserves respect, every single one. A whisper spreads through the room. Someone by the shoe rack mutters, "He's right." Lisa shrinks further, gripping her clipboard like a lifeline. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean..." She stammers, but Danny cuts her off. Sorry doesn't fix it. Lisa winces. You stood by and let this happen. Let her get treated like she's nothing. That's on you. The weight of his words crushes her, shoulders slumping. Pat seizes the moment, desperate to claw back some control. I was just protecting the store, she snaps, her voice cracking, frantic. Danny turns back to her, his eyes cold as winter. Protecting it. He lets the word hang, letting everyone feel the weight of the lie. By picking on an innocent woman? Pat opens her mouth, but no words come. By making a fool of yourself in front of everyone? A flicker of panic crosses Pat's face. Danny doesn't let up. You didn't protect a damn thing. He steps closer. You showed us all who you really are. Pat recoils, and the room turns against her completely. Danny's had enough. He turns to the bodyguard, still looming by the door like a quick nod. Get her out of here. The words land like a judge's gavel, final, absolute. Danny's gaze swings back to Pat. You're banned. A hush falls. From this store, from every Jackson's Elegance I own. Don't ever step foot in one again. Pat gapes. Her face turns beet red, her mouth opening and closing like she's choking on her own words. I didn't mean any harm, she yells, her voice shrill, desperate, bouncing off the marble walls. The bodyguard steps forward, his suit rustles faintly, his face unreadable. Pat stumbles back, clutching her purse like it might save her. "You can't do this," she sputters. Danny doesn't flinch, arms crossed, unshakable. The crowd watches. Some shake their heads. A guy in a polo claps once. Sharp, deliberate. Pat spins around, searching for support. All she gets is averted eyes, tight lips. No allies. No second chances. Her hands tremble, fingers gripping her purse so tight her knuckles go white. And then, with a frantic click of heels, she turns and storms out. The sound bounces through the now silent store. At the door she pauses, one last desperate glance. Danny and Maggie stand side by side, unmoved, unbreakable. Pat huffs, shoves the glass doors open and disappears into the Atlanta sun. The doors swing shut with a soft thud, and the room lets out a collective breath. But the story doesn't end there. As Pat's heels click away into the distance, a quiet murmur spreads through the crowd, followed by the unmistakable sound of phones being pulled out. A woman near the coat rack holds up her phone, whispering, "I recorded the whole thing." Another man by the scarves nods. "Me too, look at this." Unbeknownst to Pat, half the store had been filming. Some started when she first raised her voice, others hit record when Danny stepped forward. Within minutes, the footage floods the internet, under headlines like, "Entitled Woman Accuses Elderly Lady Gets Shut Down by Store Owner, Her Son." The raw video captures it all. Pat's sharp words, Maggie's quiet strength, Danny's unwavering stance. The hashtags take off just as for Maggie, and within hours people uncover Pat's real identity. Turns out, she's a flashy real estate agent with a polished website, but her inbox is now filled with furious emails. Her phone won't stop buzzing. Clients canceling appointments, friends cutting ties, even her yoga group sending a curt text, "We saw the video, Pat. Not cool." Alone in her house, she scrolls through the comments, her face burning with humiliation as her own smirk replays on countless screens. "I didn't mean it like that," she mutters to no one in particular. But the internet doesn't care. Her reputation is in shambles, and she can feel the weight of her actions pressing down. Back at the store, Maggie and Danny are quietly becoming local legends. Customers linger, taking pictures, whispering they stood up for what's right. The video spreads like wildfire, and this time it's Pat who's getting burned. Publicly, irreversibly, and rightfully so. Danny isn't one to let things slide. The very next morning he gathers his entire staff in the back office. His voice is calm but firm as he paces the room. "What happened yesterday should never happen again. We're better than this. My mama deserves better. Every customer who walks through those doors deserves better." There's no hesitation. Lisa is fired on the spot. Her excuse of, "I didn't know," doesn't cut it. In her place, Danny hires Tanya, a sharp, no-nonsense woman who values fairness above all. Then he goes further. Security cameras get upgraded, policies rewritten, and new training sessions rolled out. Respect is non-negotiable, he tells his employees. If you see someone being mistreated, you step in, no looking the other way. Word spreads quickly. Customers hear about the changes and show up, not just to shop, but to shake Danny's hand. Some even take selfies with Maggie, who simply laughs and says, "Y'all didn't have to make a fuss." But they did, and they're proud of it. Sales surge. People want to support a store that stands for something. At the entrance, Danny puts up a new sign, "Jackson's Elegance, where everyone belongs." It becomes more than just a store. It's a statement, a beacon of dignity and fairness in a world that sometimes forgets. And while Pat's downfall serves as a warning, Danny makes sure the real takeaway is this. This is Mama's legacy too. We honor it every single day. Now, the boutique isn't just surviving, it's thriving. And at the heart of it all is Maggie, steady as ever, proving that grace and resilience will always win in the end. The big night arrives. Jackson's Elegance celebrates its 20-year anniversary in a grand Atlanta ballroom, the air filled with soul music and warm laughter. Under the soft glow of twinkling lights, Maggie shines. She wears a stunning emerald green silk dress flowing like water as she moves through the crowd. Her silver hair glistens and her smile is as bright as ever. Beside her, Danny stands tall in a sharp suit, proud, and the room is packed. Friends, family, longtime customers all gathered to celebrate. When Danny takes the mic, the crowd falls silent. He doesn't mince words. My mama faced down ignorance with grace, and I couldn't be prouder. Applause erupts, cheers, whistles, even a few amens from the back. Maggie blushes at the attention, waving it off with a soft chuckle. And Pat? She's nowhere to be found. Last anyone heard, her real estate signs had been pulled from yards, her social media wiped clean after the backlash. She deserved it, folks say online. As the viral clips rack up millions of views, a permanent stain on her name. But tonight isn't about Pat. Tonight it's about Maggie. Guests line up to hug her, call her a queen, thank her for simply being herself. And Maggie, ever humble, just laughs. I was only picking out a dress. But they all know it was more than that. As the music swells, Danny takes her hand for a slow dance. Aretha Franklin's Respect fills the room and the crowd cheers, snapping photos of mother and son. It's a moment of pure triumph. Maggie's quiet dignity, Danny's unwavering love, and a community standing behind them. As the night winds down, Maggie surveys the room, taking in the warmth, the love, the sheer joy in the air. And she thinks to herself, this isn't just a victory, it's a legacy. And the world is watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on more exciting stories every day. See you in the next one.